So you're decided to relocate to our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and you're not quite sure where you want to live. Do you want to live on the Dallas side or the Fort Worth side? And I get it. It can be confusing because Dallas gets so much of the positive, sexy press. I mean, there's a lot to do in Dallas, adventures to be had, places to go, and you're still not sure if Dallas or Fort Worth is a better place for you. Well, here's a little test for you. If you get a thrill, you enjoy the constant need for panic or prayer whenever you're behind the wheel driving in the Metroplex, then maybe Dallas is a side for you. If you just enjoy that adrenaline rush because you're go, go, go and the pace is so fast versus relaxing, well then Dallas may be the side for you. But however, if you would like a pace that is a little slower, it's one that you can take a breath and enjoy. And I know that you've done your research, right? Because you're not going to move in a major place like the Metroplex DFW without your research. And in your research, you probably have checked out the suburbs north of Dallas. You've looked at Frisco, Plano, McKinney, Prosper, and you've also looked a little east of Dallas. You're considering Heath, Fate, maybe Rockwall. And you're even looking at the suburbs south of Dallas. You went as far out as Waxahachie to find the great place for you to live and create your memory. You're still not quite satisfied. You feel like something is missing. Well, let me introduce to you these 4 suburbs north of Fort Worth that we describe as the Beverly Hills of Texas, the crown jewel of Texas, the safest city in Texas, and the most family-friendly city in Texas. Are you ready? Hi, I'm Richest Suburbs with the DFW Life, and I realize relocating to our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, well, that can be the easy part. The part that's not so easy is where you want to live your life once you get here. I help people just like you relocate and call DFW home. Do me a favor, if this is your first time to this channel, subscribe below, press the bell, and you'll be notified anytime anything goes down around our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Now, back to the video. I'm going to introduce you to 4 of the richest cities in our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex north of Fort Worth. Now, this won't be a documentary. And of course, you're probably thinking to yourself, thank goodness, I don't want to sit through a documentary, but I want to share with you the things that I think matter to you when you decide to relocate to any city. And we're going to cover the things to do, the places you can live, the quality of education if you have a student, and your overall expectation and lifestyle if you decide to live in Colleyville, Southlake, Westlake, or Keller. And we're going to begin with the safest city in Texas, and that's Colleyville. Colleyville is about 30 miles from Dallas and about 15 miles from the city of Fort Worth. And there are about 26,000 people who call Colleyville home. I believe one of the first things you'll notice in Colleyville is how picturesque it is. Seriously, it looks like it's straight from some type of Hollywood movie, maybe a love story, maybe some fantasy where you see a lot of green and lush. I don't know that there's another place quite as beautiful as Colleyville. You will be surrounded and impressed by the canopy of trees. And these trees, they serve a multiple of purposes. One, we live in the state of Texas, and we're going to appreciate the canopy of trees when we are in the middle of our Texas heat and hot summers. And the second thing these trees do, they offer a barrier, a natural barrier between the people who are passing by on the streets in their cars and the homeowners, because these homes that you see in Colleyville, they sit a distance away from the street, and that extra layer, that canopy of trees, that heavy foliage, well, that just gives them more privacy and seclusion, all by design, I'm sure. Now, speaking of the trees, the foliage, and that extra layer of privacy, well, Colleyville is a pretty secluded place. And there's not a lot to do in Colleyville, and that's all by design. And one of the things you'll notice, it's not really easy to get around in Colleyville. Now we've got Highway 26. It's a major road that takes you from Colleyville to Grapevine, then you can get to Hurst and Bedford, to a number of places on Highway 26. But interior streets inside of Colleyville, it's not so easy to get around. I mean, there's some streets that, they may consider as major, but they're really not that major. We're looking at West Glade and LD Lockett. So there are ways to get around, but the one thing you can be pretty confident of, because by design, Colleyville is just not a place that you're going to just drive through if you don't have a reason to be there. And that's one way they keep their seclusion and their privacy, and they really keep things at a slower pace. Now, speaking of driving around and transportation, we're in Texas. So most people do have a car or truck. We have our private modes of transportation. If you're coming from a place like East Coast or a place where you can really rely on public transportation, well, you're going to have to make that adjustment and just get your driver's license, get yourself a car, unless you consider ordering a car, Uber or another car, Lyft, and have them drive you around as public transportation. Then, well, I guess you're in good shape. But otherwise, you're on your own. And again, that's by design. But frankly, you're not going to find public transportation in any of the 4 cities that we're going to cover in this video. Now remember, Colleyville doesn't have public transportation, but you will see public transportation going through Colleyville, and that would be the Trinity Railway Express. The TRE is a commuter train that originates in Grapevine. It would take people to North Richland Hills. It would take people to Fort Worth and a number of stops, but it will not stop in Colleyville. The other interesting things that you will see on the rails is the Polar Bear Express. Again, that originates in Grapevine, and Grapevine is a neighboring city to Colleyville. And you know what? That North Pole Express is pretty fun during the winter season. You will have children, you will see adults, everyone really getting excited about the holiday spirit. You'll also see one of the older looking trains, one of the replicas, that will take to the rails, and that's where you might see a good old-fashioned shootout. Now, I know we're in Texas, so this is not real guns. People are not shooting on the train. These are all reenactment of what you would feel, experience if the train got robbed in the 17 or the 1800s. So if you are really into shopping and being close to home and not having to leave home, well then this may not be the place for you. There are things to do in Colleyville, but on a much smaller scale. So let's say, for example, if you want to go shopping and need a retail therapy, they do have a couple of shopping centers. They have the town center of Colleyville where you can pick up a couple of things, and you will also enjoy the villages of Colleyville. Now this is where you're going to find the upscale condominiums for sale, shops, boutiques, med spas, and other specialty businesses. Well, let's talk about the homes and the places you're going to live in if you decide to call Colleyville your home. Well, here's the good news, which I think most people can appreciate, is 95% of the people who live in Colleyville own their home. So we're talking some serious pride in home ownership. Yards beautifully manicured. The homes look spectacular. And you have some choices. You have architectural design choices. What size of home do you want in Colleyville? The age of the home. Do you want something modest, or are you looking for something that's more opulent, more of an estate? Whatever you want, I'm sure Colleyville has it for you. So here's what you're going to notice. In addition to all the tree-lined streets, you're going to notice where this nice big home is next to, well, a smaller, older home. Well, what's happening here in Colleyville is what you see in many, many cities, because what's happening is people are moving away from the larger areas and coming out to the suburbs. And you do have people who are moving in, they're buying lots and they're buying land that has maybe an older, smaller home. And rather than retrofitting that home to meet their need, or maybe that home is not their size, they just level the home and they build these nice, well, big homes, actually mansions, on that land. So you're going to have a variety of styles in the city of Colleyville. Next up, the Beverly Hills of Texas, Southlake. The city of Southlake is one of the richest cities in the entire state of Texas, and about 31,000 people call Southlake home. Southlake is less than 30 miles from the city of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Arlington. Now, the riches of Southlake, it extends far beyond financial assets. We're talking about riches and pride and tradition. You're going to find celebrities who live in Southlake, professional athletes, both retired and currently on the roster. And some people would describe Southlake as being, well, haughty or maybe snooty. But I don't know, let's think about this. If you have the financial resources and the ability to give your students a competitive edge, wouldn't you? Southlake has a sense of excellence that can be seen in their students' performances, both academically and athletically. Now for the things to do in the city of Southlake. One of the things you're going to do, go, enjoy, explore, meet up with friends, is Southlake Town Square. In Southlake Town Square, you're going to have about 130 acres, over 120 shops, restaurants. There's festivals that'll be held there, fireworks, you have parks there. There's just a diverse group of things to do there and people that would meet up. Southlake will have cultural events. There's a lot of fun to be had right around there. And you also have Bicentennial Park. Well, that's where you have the baseball fields, the tennis courts. You will have Liberty Gardens, which is where you have the 9/11 Memorial, and Bob Jones Nature Center, which is rich in history. So I would recommend you go online or somehow research Bob Jones. Southlake would not be Southlake without his legacy. And just in case you got the impression that Southlake only has one shopping center, Town Square, oh no. Look to the left, look to the right, look across the street. There's more shops that you can enjoy. There's no shortage in things to buy, places to eat in Southlake. You also notice in Southlake a number of public art pieces. And one of the ones that you'll certainly notice, the biggest art piece, is a stainless steel 28-foot tall dragon named Fury. Oh, and just in case you wonder, dragon, why dragon? Southlake School, Carroll ISD, their mascot is the dragon. Now for our next section of Southlake, pretty important section, is the place you're going to live once you get here, your home. Now, money, that's the gateway of having the coveted address of living in Southlake. And you're going to spend a lot of it to have your home here. Let's talk about the types of places you're going to be able to live here in Southlake. As to be expected, living in Southlake, you can purchase an estate with multiple sports courts, ponds, anything you want, you could probably find or build here in Southlake. Now, in Southlake, you're going to notice a lot of infield, places where there are a few acres that's been purchased by developers and they're putting newly constructed homes there. You're going to also see older homes, but older homes that may be on a lot of acres. You always have a holdout in every community, somebody who's not going to sell their land and they're going to keep their homestead that may be from the 30s, the 40s, the 20s. They're not moving. So you're going to see some of that along with some brand new constructed homes or newer homes that are much, much larger. Well, that's our snapshot of the city of Southlake. And if you want to rub elbows and live amongst the uber rich, well, that would be the city of Westlake. And we're going to touch upon Westlake in just a bit. But for now, let's take a look at what has been named as the most family-friendly city, and that's Keller, Texas. There are about 45,000 people who call Keller, Texas home. Keller is about 30 miles from Dallas and about 18 miles from the city of Fort Worth. And I believe one of the things that you will notice right out of the gate is how green and lush Keller is. There are paths that people walk, they jog, they push strollers almost everywhere. And that leads me to the things to do. The city of Keller features more than 300 acres of developed parkland, 11 park sites, and more than 26 miles of hike and bike trails. Bear Creek Park, which is the largest park in Keller, it winds through a great number of the neighborhoods. The walking and jogging paths on the main streets, where they're so wide, they easily accommodate people who are jogging or walking, where they can just pass each other up rather than having to wait for one person to go and then you go. Let's say that the outdoor scene is not quite your thing, but don't worry. Keller still has you covered. Keller Point. This is a very popular place to get in your exercise, your fitness. They have aquatics facility. You can take classes. You may like more organized exercise versus jogging and walking. They got it right there for you. And right across the street, sharing the same parking lot as Keller Point is the Canine Park. So everyone in your family can get their exercise. And then beyond Canine Park and the other playgrounds, you have the Rock Garden where people memorialize, honor, and remember the ones they love and lost. The other thing to do in Keller is enjoy Keller Town Center. Keller Town Center is where you're going to find about 20 businesses, which include boutiques, restaurants, fine and casual dining, fitness clubs, grocery store. Keller has other shopping areas and options for you, but if you want more options for shopping, you can drive a few miles to Southlake, and Southlake is the next city over from Keller. And for serious shopping, well, hop in your car and go to either Dallas or Fort Worth. But I will say that in the city of Keller, there are plenty of things to do and enjoy, such as the festivals, their fireworks. There are a lot of cultural events. Catch and Release Pond right there at City Hall. There's an amphitheater that people in Keller just gather around and enjoy some civic festivities. And right near Keller Town Center, Keller Independent School District has their natatorium, which is a state-of-the-art swimming facility, perfect for your budding swimmer or your elite athlete. Let's talk about houses because, well, you have to live somewhere. In Keller, there are two large planned communities, Marshall Ridge and Hidden Lakes. And I've done a video on both of those neighborhoods, which are very large. But if you want to know more about them and you like more of the neighborhood that has the community swimming pools, maybe you want to be near a golf course, or you want an active community with a lot of things planned throughout the year, then you definitely want to check out one of those videos. But overall, in Keller, you have well-established neighborhoods. Now, there are a few infill lots. There are developers who have bought up a few acres and they're building new homes, but they're going to be scattered out and about. But mostly, you're going to find some really nice established homes with mature trees. Now, on the north side of Keller Parkway, which is one of the major streets that runs through Keller, this is where you're going to find homes that rival Colleyville and Southlake. We're talking beautiful estates on quite a bit of land, palatial, very secluded. That you will find in Keller that's nearer to Westlake, Roanoke, and part of Southlake. But it's still in the city of Keller because Keller is a wealthy city. There's just more diversity within the city, financial diversity in the city of Keller. But you have people in Keller who could buy wherever they want. So you have homes there that are very expensive. We're talking multiple $1 million, just like Southlake, Colleyville, and some of the other places. But they just choose to live in Keller because overall, Keller has a reputation of being more inclusive than some of the other cities. Unlike Southlake and Colleyville, you will find apartment complexes in the city of Keller. In Keller Town Center, there are luxury condominiums and townhomes there for lease. So again, Keller, you have more diverse population economically, so you have areas that are more affordable. But even in the city of Keller, even in the older parts, the average price point for Keller, if you find something under $500,000, then that's a pretty good deal. Really, it is. But you're probably somewhere that's nice in Keller. You're looking at 600 plus. And again, if you want something that's pretty palatial, multiple $1 million all day. Keller ISD has over 35 schools. Now they also have the collegiate schools and preparatory schools like you will find in some of the other school districts. There are 4 high schools, but only one of the 4 high schools is within the city of Keller. The other 3 high schools are actually in the city of Fort Worth. Now, there's a history there, there's a story there, and we'll talk about that later. But for the purpose of you living within the city of Keller, there is one high school, and that is Keller High. And Keller Independent School District, like the others, has an impeccable reputation for producing quality, well-performing, highly competitive students. So you can't go wrong by choosing Keller as your home. Last, the crown jewel of Texas, the town of Westlake. Westlake is home to less than 2,000 people. So that is so small, that is so exclusive that we don't even call that a city. That's a town. So it's the town of Westlake. And this is where you're going to find celebrities, people with high net worth profiles. We're talking the uber rich. And it's so secluded in Westlake that you really can't even see their homes. You may be able to see a few homes if you kind of lean in and look, especially if it's a new constructed home. But for the most part, established neighborhoods, you're not going to see those homes. They have guarded gatehouses with a lot of foliage. If you don't live there, if you're not on the guest list, you're not going inside. Now, this may be sounding pretty good to you. You kind of like how this feels, but you're not really in the stage of your life where you need a huge home. Maybe you prefer a townhome or condo. Guess what? Westlake can certainly help you there. But these are some of the most beautiful townhomes and condos that you will find. And the beauty of it is the architecture and the design. It reminds you of a European feel, Mediterranean feel with the structure, the design, the cobblestone. Very, very beautiful indeed. Now, let's be honest, there's not a lot to do in Westlake. But what you will do is hop in your car and drive to Dallas, drive to Fort Worth. You might drive to one of the surrounding smaller communities. And so let's talk about what's really important to most people wherever you live. Well, that's education. The families who live in Westlake, they send their students to Westlake Academy. Now, it is a public charter school serving students in kindergarten through 12th grade with a curriculum structure that supports the IB World School. Westlake Academy is a public academy, so you may have people at Westlake who actually live in other cities. So they have a diverse population, which could be a surprise to some people for it to be such an exclusive and secluded area. They have opened the doors for other students who may obtain a waiver, a voucher, or some type of scholarship to attend. Well, now that you've had a sneak peek, a little snapshot, a snippet of the 4 richest places to live, suburbs north of Fort Worth. If you want some more information, like really get to know the different neighborhoods and really get to know all the things to do, then I would invite you to take a look at my other videos that highlight each of these cities with a lot more details that I think you would appreciate. But just to give you an overview of these areas, because you might be considering moving to these places, you're looking at a suburban lifestyle and you want one that is a place of affluence, and you want a place that is great for your students if you have children moving with you. Let's take a look at some of the things that you're going to do when you move to one of these areas, because let's face it, you're not going to live in your home always. At some point, you're going to get in the car and drive around. So here are some of the places that you want to put on your things to do list. Well, let's start with the city of Dallas. Dallas is the biggest city within our DFW Metroplex. And of course, you're not going to live in DFW without going to Dallas. Dallas is where you're going to see so much sophistication. You're going to enjoy the Dallas Arboretum. You're going to enjoy the museums, the culture, the lifestyle. There's so much to do and explore right there in Dallas. But let's just say you're exhausted, because remember, Dallas has a lot of traffic for you to navigate, and you have to really be on the go and be on the lookout. Let's take a look at Fort Worth. Now, Fort Worth is going to be closer to you than Dallas, and Fort Worth is where we have more of our Western history, our Western charm. You're going to see real cowboys on real horses with real cattle going down the street. But just because it's a Western flair and charm doesn't mean it's lacking in sophistication. You will absolutely enjoy Sundance Square. You'll enjoy 7th Street. In fact, the Fort Worth Zoo is ranked number 1 among all the zoos in our country. So that's a pretty good place to visit as well. Now, let's say you want to be closer to home, because you're going to have to drive a little bit to get to Dallas and drive even to Fort Worth. But Grapevine is very close to you. Grapevine is our Christmas capital, Texas. And this is where we're going to have your wine tasting because it is Grapevine. So that's where you'll see some of our vineyards. And if you go to historic downtown Grapevine, that's going to be a pretty fun trip for you. And closer to you than Dallas and Fort Worth is the city of Roanoke, where that's our unique food capital of Texas. And again, you're going to get that really nice historic charm downtown Roanoke, and there's so much fun to be had there as well. And the other pros that you're going to find living in this area is the exceptional education that your students will earn by going through these school systems. And I want to tell you a little bit about and how to rank and just kind of consider these school systems. Southlake Carroll ISD, that is a highly competitive school, both academically and athletically. Now remember, we have a lot of wealth and influence and affluence there. So you have professional athletes and you have a number of people who can afford to give their children the best of the best of the best. And let's face it, sometimes resources, well, they matter. So in Southlake, you will see their record is, well, impeccable when it comes to some of the UIL accolades that they have received both academically and athletically. In fact, they have such a reputation that some of the students, now this could be a pro or a con, some of the students and the families that I've helped move in and out of Southlake have really found a tremendous amount of pressure that they feel from the spirit of being excellent in all things all the time. So, that may not be your story. Let me know if you lived in Southlake and you've experienced or you've heard of people who have struggled with some of the just trying to keep up, because it's a very competitive environment. But back to education, Westlake, if you want that rigor of an IB curriculum, well, Westlake Academy is the way to go. But now you got to be able to afford to live in Westlake to reap that benefit. But remember, Westlake has opened its borders to where you don't actually have to live in the city of Westlake to attend. There is a very select group of school districts, if your student lives outside of Westlake, that can attend. But if that's something you're interested in, you would need to contact Westlake Academy to get the details on that. Now, speaking of the other two school districts in this area that we talked about with these cities, Keller and Grapevine Colleyville ISD. Listen, both of these schools will produce an exceptional experience for your student. I mean, highly, highly competitive. You won't go wrong with choosing Keller or living in Colleyville, taking advantage of Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District. Now, this is where I want to describe as buyer beware. If you have moved to one of these cities, Westlake, Southlake, Keller, or Colleyville, so your child can go to these particular schools, then I would caution you to make sure before you sign the contract to live in a particular home, although it's located in the city of these schools, that your student would actually attend that school. Because some of these homes, especially if they're on the outskirts of the cities, those students may be naturally zoned to attend a different school. But honestly, if you live in the city, just go to the school district and they'll take care of everything for you so your student can attend the actual school district in which you thought your student would attend when you bought the home in that particular city. So now for the cons. Honestly, I really don't have a lot of cons to present. I know if you have pros, you're supposed to have cons. I would say, from my experience of helping people move in and out of these cities and navigate their lives in these places, the only thing that I think that I hear that people ask about, and it's not necessarily a con, but it's a caution that some have, and that is diversity. And this really transcends racial diversity, ethnic diversity, culture diversity, or even economic diversity. But we understand that when you have a place or places that have affluence, places that are wealthy, that sometimes are not as diverse. You're watching this video because you're trusting me to just be honest. So they're not going to be as diverse as you may find closer into the city of Fort Worth or closer into the city of Dallas. But that's going to be the case wherever you go. When you move into the suburbs, typically you're less diverse as you would in the larger cities. But you are in DFW Metroplex. There is not a single city that I've mentioned in this video, even with all of its affluence, wealth, and riches, that you are going to only see a homogeneous group of people. You have wealth no matter what the culture, no matter the race, and they're all mixed in there. Westlake may be less heterogeneous because you're talking about the uber rich, which not many people are uber rich, regardless of your background. But I know the one thing that draws people together to this area is the quality of education, the low crime rate, the affordability of the homes. Now let's take a pause there. Now this may be a con. The two places that are really going to give you that diverse affordability would be Colleyville and Keller, especially areas that you can really buy a nicer home in almost a different price points. But I'm going to be really honest with you. In these four areas, if you find something under 600,000, that it may be older or it may need some work. All of these areas, you can have multiple million-dollar estates, and you probably on average are going to enjoy homes that are 600,000 and above. But really, if you find anything in any of these areas under 500,000, then hit pause and get on the phone right now and give me a call. Let's go ahead and get that under contract. But I wanted to share with you because I know that a pretty house is a wonderful thing, but to live your life in an area and really know what's going on, that may be more important. So hopefully you've been able to enjoy, and I've exposed you to pros and cons, education, things to do, and other areas that, are really important to you when you decide to live your life anywhere that might be. Listen, if you're thinking about relocating to one of these areas or anywhere in our Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, do me a favor. Give me a call, comment below, let me know so we can have a one-on-one so I can help you decide which of these areas is the best place for you to create your memories and call home.